Good evening, everyone. I am Victoria Nicole, the host of The Confessional Room, also the founder of The Confessions of a Lady, which is a nonprofit organization where we speak out against domestic violence, concentrating on those girls ages 7 and up who have been sexually assaulted. And so, in the room tonight, we have none other than Miss Ruby Rue, CEO, on social media platforms as well as Instagram. So Miss Sierra, which is her government name, we actually never officially met, but I came across a video that I believe Live Prep Nation actually um, did for her. And so I was very intrigued by it. And so, of course, she and I began to follow one another on social media. And she has an amazing story, you guys. Like many other people who we brought into the room, I try to find people who are going to be raw and uncut because I believe in the society in which we live today, we don't need anybody else to code anything for us. So our guests are going to always be, if I can pull it out of them, are always going to be raw and authentic and uncut because that is what's needed to get to the generation who believes that they're unreachable or untouchable. And so I know that that is my God-given assignment, and I'm super excited about it. Now, Miss Sierra, Ruby Roo CEO, she was actually in a domestic violence situation, well, relationship, where God actually, he said that God had sent him to her and that he was the one for her. And so she is going to join us. She says that she's here. She is going to join us and go into more in depth about how that situation occurred, and everything. Side note, you guys, I am not sure what I've done with this page. I'm not sure what I did with any of my social media because it's just not working. It does not allow for me to share these lives out to my main page. Does anyone know? Is it maybe because the type of page that this is the reason why I have these restrictions? If anybody's watching this and can tell me, please enlighten me because it's very irritating as to why I cannot share my broadcast out. And I also cannot see comments, um, a lot of you guys' comments until after the broadcast. So that's really strange to me. And so I am waiting on her. And I just went ahead and I pinned her Instagram if you guys would like to follow her. She's very phenomenal, and I really, 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 really like her. So let's see if this is her. Courtney Williams. I'm not sure. Mm-mm. Hey, Courtney. We are just waiting on our guest to join us. Um, there she is. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Hi,
Hi, hey, beautiful.
how are thou?
I'm well. How are you doing?
She got all her necklace on. I'm in a headscarf. It's gonna be all
Girl,
right.
don't ask me what I got on this below. I said, don't ask me what I got on below this. It's just camera ready from here on up.
And that's it. I literally just came back and I was like, let me go and try to refresh and from after working out because I about didn't make it. But I am so glad that you decided to say yes. I was telling the people that you and I do not officially know one another. I actually came across your page from your promotional video that I believe Daz did from Live Prep Nation, and I was very
Yes.
intrigued by the story in which you were given, and I was like, oh, that's somebody who I need to connect with because our visions kind of align with one another. And I was telling people like, I don't even know her,
Okay.
but I'm gonna go ask her, and so that people can know how to find you. I went ahead and I pinned your Instagram. I'm not sure if you have
Okay.
Ruby Roo on Facebook, but I do know for sure that it's on Instagram. So at any given time, if you want to drop a website, or anything about yourself, I'll be sure to pin that comment as well. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds
All right.
good.
So give people, besides your handsome son, who I want to always kiss through the screen, tell us about yourself.
So I am Sierra Elaine Ward, and I am first and foremost a child of the living God. I am nothing without him, and God is everything through me. And yeah, I've gone through a set of life events that just forces me to serve him with everything that's in me. And you saw that that video because God was. It seems that when I'm in a storm, I'm the most creative. God gets his best work out of me when it comes to ministry or just being on fire. You know, as humans, we tend to, the more we're burdened, the more we seek God. And that's kind of like the season that I was in when God allowed me to create that image so that people could see what abuse looks like. And I believe that he allowed me to survive it so that I can share with other women the signs. Because sometimes we won't see it right off, right?
Right,
You know,
right.
they say blind, right? And it really can be. You can see the sign. It could be right here, and you couldn't believe it. Because women tend to fall in love with what they hear. So even though they see a man doing a thing, if he continues to tell her how much he loves her, we'll overlook it until God allows us to see what's life threatening.
Oh, you preaching already? Okay.
Like,
So
I just asked for your name.
I
Yeah.
just asked, but hey, we're in the confession room, like I was telling you. I am here for it all. I wanted to come out in the most raw and authentic way because, like I was telling people before you joined on, I believe in this day and age that we can't always just be cookie cutter with the message, and that we have to break it down so that the people who are watching, especially the ones who will never comment, who will never share, who will never like, when they watch this, I want them to be able to feel and see themselves in these situations that are in the confessional room. Like, I want them to be like, okay, so that's me. So really, when it comes to certain situations, that makes us believe that it's just us and that we're the only ones going through that. But when women like you and other guests in the confession room come here and they share their story, they then can believe, okay, if they overcame it, then so can I.
Oh, it most definitely.
So
Most definitely.
without further ado, let's just jump in. So let's hear about this situation that you were in.
So, to give a little backstory before before this journey began, I was at a church in Birmingham, and this pastor from Africa was visiting, and it had to be over 1,000 people in the church, and my maiden name is Shaw, and so this man says, "Is there a lady with the last name of Shaw in the building?" And that's rare for an African American to have that last name. So I'm looking around like, he couldn't be talking to me. So, he says my name a few times, and I stand up, and he said, "I have a word from the Lord for you." And I have this on video. He said, "Your mother and your father in two different rooms. They're separated, and they're no longer together. But the thing that overcame your mother will not overcome you. Your marriage will not be tampered with, and God is preserving that which belongs to you." Okay. Now keep that in mind. This random stranger, at that time I'm not married. How do you know my mom and father are not together? And you know what I mean? So there were a lot of things that were true about that statement to poise like, okay, there may be some validity to what is being said. So fast forward a couple of months, I run into this guy. And I had known him for a period of time, but we just saw each other for the first time in some years and reconnected. And he said to me, "God told me that you are my wife, and I'm not going to wait 1 second further. I want to not only make you my girlfriend, but I'm going to marry you, and I'm not going to wait 30 days if I can help it." So you gotta know, as a woman that loved God, right? Before I knew who I wanted to be, as in my career, before I even knew who God called me to be in ministry, I knew for sure that I wanted to be a wife. Like, as early as I can remember, my dream, maybe most women, because with what we watch or what we don't have at home, we always want that which we don't have. I saw myself as a wife, I saw myself as a mother, I saw that picket fence, I saw those two dogs. And the mistakes that I made in my life is that I was always looking for someone to take that role so that my picture could be complete. And I didn't take the time to vet the person in the role because I was only looking for a picture because I didn't have anything to compare it to. Does that
Mm,
make sense?
to me, it does all the way.
Okay. Yeah. So that was the trouble that I had in my relationship. Most commonly, men would approach me and want to be my boyfriend instantly, and I would accept that title because my goal was to be a wife. So I would need a man to get that done. So I skipped the process and just kind of put him in position. And you'll see that kind of like play through my life. So this time is no different, other than the fact that I got the prophecy, right before it. And I love God, so boom. So he says, "God told me that you're my wife." And I was like, "This is it." There was no let's find out what his background is, who's his family, where does he come from, nothing outside of that privacy that I got and that we had known of each other. So I felt as though I knew enough to coincide with the privacy that I got to make that happen. So not 45 to 50 days later, we were married. And there were some things that happened in the course of that time, in that short period of time, that showed me that not that he could not have been my husband, but there were signs to show me that there were some areas of opportunity before we moved forward. And so
Stop. Such as.
okay, such as, so the night that we saw each other, he was drunk. Okay. Now I don't have alcohol. I'm not gonna say I don't have alcoholics in my family. I'm gonna say I wasn't raised around any. So I didn't have the eye of the discernment to tell it. You know what I mean? So maybe someone else would have, but I just didn't. And it was like classic weekend. Everybody's having a good time. Everybody's drinking. So I didn't think any more of it than, just a good night. You know what I mean? And so he came back to my house that night and he brought liquor over. And I'm not a drinker, but I appreciated that he thought enough of me to bring a gift. He brought wine. He thought of me. That was. So I saw that. And then some days in, he was saying, I got to stop by the gas station to get a case of beer. I saw right off that it was a part of his regimen. But even then, my mind began to tell me, oh, it's just beer. It's just, I mean, who gets drunk off of beer? He's a guy, it's football season. I came up with many things to avoid the reality of things. And it turned into a case of beer to when I run out of that case of beer by himself, he's going to go back to the gas station and get more beer. And then now he can't go to sleep unless he's passed out. And then it goes from that to now we can't have sex until he's drunk. And now he's passing out on top of me because he's so drunk. And then he gets up in the middle of him being passed out and go back to having sex like as if it never stopped. And now I'm feeling raped.
So now
I remember.
So let's stop because you're saying a lot, and I want everybody to catch this. So in this process of him becoming being intoxicated all the time, drunk all the time, was this before or after you all got married?
But it was before.
Okay.
Before. But also keep in mind, so you had October, which was classic, and if anybody knows about Birmingham, that's a big deal. Then in that same season, you got Alabama games, everybody's getting together for social events and drinking. And then you've got Thanksgiving, you've got Christmas, you got New Year's. And mind you, we got married in a very short window. So it was like, okay, well, everybody's celebrating, this is the season, but it's like after the party's over, his doesn't stop. But he's not cheating. I don't have any infidelity issues, and he works hard and he comes home. So am I going to make this a big issue because he liked to drink? I mean, he's at home. And when I brought it to his attention, he would make that same argument. I mean, I don't ever go nowhere. I just be at home chilling. I can't drink. And I would be like, I mean, that's true. I didn't have anything to compare it to. So I just was like, well, it's not the ideal situation, but if you compare everything else that's going on versus this thing about him drinking, it's beer. It's beer. And so I made it be okay, even when, people would bring it to my attention. My family was like, I believe he loves you, but I think that he has an addiction. And I want you guys to address that. I think that you can go somewhere, but until he addresses that, it's going to drag you down more than it is him because he's already conditioned. Alcohol problem, you're going to be the problem because of alcohol. And I was like, I don't believe that. The God I serve, then my mind starts going back to that prophecy, right? So I'm standing on the promises of God because I know God for myself. And if God said that man is for me, and then this man just randomly comes up and says he's my husband, then I'm going to stand on the promises of God and watch him, change this man into the man that I'm hoping that he'll become. And I think that's most common. Women fall in love with the potential of a man. You know what I mean? Right? So, and I think to a degree that's an amazing thing that we can see past the natural, that is what faith is about. But you have to also be discerning in how God wants you to move. And so that's a lesson that I learned. So, as time matured and things began to happen, I started to see how the alcohol was beginning to control my house, whether that be him handling me too aggressive. And I'll never forget when it first happened. My friend, I wish I could tag her, but my friend was at the house with us one day, and he ran into the room. We were in the bedroom, and he ran into the room and picked me up and body slammed me on the bed. I could have broke my neck. And my friend looked at him and said, "Well, if you're gonna do this in front of me, are you gonna beat her next?" You know, she instantly became defensive because of how aggressive he was.
Right.
And I was like, I was in shock because it happened so fast. And then, two, I instantly began to defend him because I know that when he drinks, he gets aggressive and he doesn't understand how aggressive he's being.
Mm.
So
So
I
you,
take on of defending.
so you basically you were defending him because you didn't know any better. You didn't know he was a whole fool yet.
Right? No, no. That's why I say it's like the progressiveness. You know what I'm saying? It's in small doses, and I think that's why we miss out on the opportunity to see abuse because it comes in just small pieces, you know. And then some people wait until it's too late. And I thank God for a praying family, for a loving set of friends that were willing to tell me uncomfortable things to make sure I was safe, you know. And I mean, and to this day, I don't believe that he intentionally, you know, was trying to hurt me, but hurt people hurt people. You
Those
know what I mean? And I can't make concession for that or disregard what's happening because you're broken. Like we can deal with it and go get the therapy, but I'm not gonna be your punching bag because you're broken. You know. And so that happened, and then you know then another episode happened. It was a football game going on, and my mom was in the room this particular time, and I came out with a different team shirt than the one that he was rooting for. And I said, I came out and he was like, "Why you got that shirt on?" And I was like, "What you mean, babe?" I'm thinking he joking, you know. I was like, "I ain't paying no attention to this. I love me a thrift store, you know. Mama bought me this shirt." And he was like, "I'm not gonna buy you nothing else. You betraying the family. Alabama is the way we go." And I'm still thinking that he's playing until he grabbed me by my shirt and ripped it off of my body in front of my mom. And as he was ripping it off of me, he pushed me into the couch and had me with my bra on and the shirt in his hand as he was rooting for Alabama, and my mama sitting there in shock. She said she couldn't breathe. Like she said the same. She said, all I was thinking is, does my daughter realize the damage and the potential damage that she's involved in? And by that time, I had become so conditioned to him playing too rough that I couldn't see that it was abuse. I didn't see that. In my mind, it was like embarrassing because my mama saw it, and embarrassing because she wouldn't understand that he didn't mean nothing by it. So now I've got to explain that he's not abusive, he's not crazy, he's not a drunk. It's just that when he drinks a little too much, he's aggressive and he doesn't understand. And then at that point in time, I decided, I said, I'm going to say something to him because I know he means well. He loves me and he's handling me a little too rough. And that created an argument. So it went like this, babe. You know, when you did that today, it really ripped me of like my pride almost. And it was just, I can't believe you handled me that rough. I thought you were playing. Well, you know what? I'm not going to touch you again. I don't even want to be physical with you because you're going to make people think that I'm being abusive to you. I just won't touch you at all. We ain't even got to sleep in the same bed. You act like, and in that moment, I'm battling against him for his respect for me. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when life changed. Because at that point, it went from me being, you know, a victim and scared to me feeling like I needed to impress upon him my value.
Correct.
And you got to know it's unacceptable instead of just walking away. You,
Yeah,
you you know what I mean?
you want to be a whole fool for no reason.
Right. So now we're not even arguing about the fact that you handled me. We arguing about the fact that I addressed it with you, and now I've got to be punished because I can't handle the way you deal with me. And
Correct.
that takes you into a whole other place mentally. It's no longer about the abuse. It's about you now trying to prove to them that you are worthy of something different. You know what I mean? That's psychological. That goes past a physical abuse. That's when it transitions into mental. And you trying to understand it. I'm talking to my friends like, well, why he don't understand? And you know, now we're not having sex, or now he in a different room because he feel like I'm labeling him, and all I want is peace in my house. So how do I get him on the same? Now I'm trying to get him to understand me. Ooh, So that and that's how, you know, and it just went from crazy to crazier. And then it was, baby, I'm not gonna drink no more, and I want to give my life to Christ, and you right, and I'm sorry for what I've done, and I've just been through a lot of things. And then, you know, because you are a believer in Christ and you hear somebody say that they're ready to be the potential that you've been praying for, then you hang in there. That's all you need, is that one little seed of hope to keep the abuse that you currently evolved yourself in. You waiting for him to say, I'm going to do something different.
Correct.
And even if he does, something in your flesh gives you just one more day to keep going, because at least he said it. Because we fall in love with what we hear. And the mistake I made is that he was so prideful that just to get him to say I'm sorry was enough for me, instead of enough being him showing a different action. And if I could challenge any woman, I would say, don't forgive at the I'm sorry. Forgive at the action. The action that says that he's done something. Yeah. Because a man or a human being will begin to see, oh, all I got to do is tell her I'm sorry and she'll be fine. I do it again and then I just say I'm sorry real good. That's how that begins to manifest, is when you just let it go at I'm sorry. He's got to show you something different. And so, long story short, that situation ended up with him obviously putting his hands on me. I got a call from a relative that the night that it happened, and they said that he was too drunk to make it home. And he was passing out at the house. And by that time, I had become so flustered and frustrated, I didn't care where he was. And about 15 minutes later, he called me. I'm sorry, babe. I know I should have stayed out. I know you're pregnant. I love you. I'll be home. And I was just over it. He made it home and he passed out in the car. And I was talking to the Lord, because he always passed out in the car with a lit black and mild in his hand with the car running. It never failed. So not only would I have to set my pride aside and love him past him being abusive to me, I had to make a decision to save his life every time he put himself in danger. I had to be the one to get up,
Mm.
go down, wake him up, and make sure the car was off and he didn't set us on fire, you know, and love him still. And God charges us to love. He gives us the fruits of the spirit. So I'm still trying to govern the way I treat him according to what God has taught me, even in the midst of him treating me the way he is, because I know that it's not the man. I know it's the devil behind the man. So I'm really trying to be travail on his behalf. I'm fighting in the trenches for who I know God has called him to be, and not how he's treating me. So this night he comes to the house and I'm fussing. I'm 6.5 months pregnant, and I'm talking to him about how frustrated I am and how I'm in this by myself, and you hadn't been to one doctor's appointment yet, and you choose alcohol over your family all the time, and I'm tired of carrying your burden with no appreciation. And he pinned me up against the wall and he cussed me out and called me all kind of names. And I heard the Spirit of the Lord say, be still. Just be
Mm.
still. I did. A couple of days later, I I go to the police department and I talk to the lady, and she said so many women in your situation never move forward. They let the man get away with it, and then I see them come back in body bags. And she said you have two choices to make. You can either file a protective order against him, or you can file a warrant for his arrest. And as I was talking to that lady, I heard the Spirit of the Lord say to me, you ask me for accountability for him. What are you going to do? So you got to be very careful about what you pray for, because sometimes God will call you to the task. And I wasn't expecting that. You know how when you ask God to do a thing, you expect it to happen the way you receive it to happen. Like he's
Mhm.
gonna run into somebody, have an accident, but it ain't gonna kill. You make up in your mind how it's gonna manifest. And so I had to be obedient because I had been in prayer concerning God saving his life. So I filed a protective order, and that removed him from the home. We had to appear in court about 3 weeks later, and I said, God, whatever you're doing, I trust you even when it doesn't look good. I don't know what this means for my situation. I don't know what it's going to do long term, but I'm going to be obedient to what you say do in this season. So we got to court, and he showed up in court, and he said, in my 6.5 months of pregnant, that child is not mine. She cheated on me. I want a divorce, and I want her moved out of the house immediately.
Say what now?
The child is not mine. She cheated on me. I want her removed from the marital home immediately. He also filed a counter protective order saying that he did not put his hands on me, but that in fact I put my hands on him.
Oh, but you got two witnesses on two different occasions, your mama and your best friend.
Oh, listen, the evidence that I had concerning him, he couldn't have been in his right mind to do it. There was no way. So I had to suffer through a season where I didn't understand, God, why would you subject me to this? I was following your will because I was thinking he was going to be like, babe, I love you. I'm sorry. That was going to scare him straight. I couldn't get pregnant. I had been believing God for a baby for a long time. Like, I mean, years and years. And we went through being together, and I went through, fertility treatments and trusting God and getting prophecies that I would deliver a son. I'm saying my process of getting pregnant wasn't your typical one. And so when I found out that I was pregnant, it was much different than oops, I found out I'm pregnant. It was on my knees, blessing God for him giving me the promise that I had asked for. But I didn't expect it to come in the middle of a storm. You understand what I'm saying? So when that happened in the courtroom, you can only imagine the setback mentally. Like, God, I thought that this was going to work together for my good, and now my character is on the line. He has come against the very thing I've been praying for. I need you to make me understand why this is happening. And so what I can tell you in hindsight is that God was developing me for the now. um, I began to study the scriptures to get an understanding because I was so confused, and God led me to the story of Mary, Jesus, and Joseph. And the moment that God sent the angel to tell Mary that she was going to birth Jesus, all hell broke loose in her life. You hear me?
Mhm.
All hell broke loose. The city was trying to stone her. Her husband was trying to decide whether he wanted to be with her or not. She had to run and end up having Jesus in a manger. And I told God that if I had to suffer for a season to deliver the promise of God, then I would be willing to go through this a million times for his glory. And so I decided to go through it with integrity. I decided not to post when I wanted to post. I decided not to defend myself when I wanted to defend myself, because God said he'll always avenge you. And if I trust him, then he'll direct my path. And so he was faithful. He was faithful to me in that house that he tried to put me out of. I'm still in, mortgage free, utility free. God has allowed me to open my business. Now I have a storefront, Ruby Woo House of Fashion. The car that I lost in the marriage, I gained back, and I got it in the color of red. When I say God is a restorer, and if you are obedient to God and allow God to shift your life even when it's uncomfortable, he will give you the desires of your heart past what you can imagine. And that's where I'm at.
So, but let's let people know your son is how old now?
10 months.
He's 10 months. So this was just over a course of a span of what, the last year and a half, almost 2 years?
Yes, year
Because
and a
you,
half.
you said that this was at 6 months that that you were in the court, and now your son is 10 months, and we know that it takes about 9.5, 10 months to have a baby. So this is all within a 20-month span. So this is, yeah, like in the last 2 years.
Yes.
So what one of the things I like to ask the women is, what would you have? I know that you said that you would redo this all over again to get the promise in which God had said that you were to have, and that was, i.e., your son. But what would you have told yourself in the beginning had you known now? Would you have done anything differently?
Yes, I would have. I would have been patient with the process. See, like I said in the beginning, I'm not going to negate that God called him to be my husband, but I will say that because I'm so anxious to get to a goal, I forego the process to get to the picture. You understand what I'm saying? So God could have done a work prematurely, like before all of this happened. We could have gone through the right counseling. I could have prayed on his behalf. I could have been separate. We could have dated longer. I could have introduced him to God and been able to keep my distance enough to where I could guard my heart. But because I went in it head first without asking God for wisdom on how to move, I wasn't prepared to give him the God in me that I have now. Does that make sense?
It makes
because
sense.
I felt yeah, I just fell in. And if I was able to just sit back and assess and say, okay, if God said that this is my husband, then God teach me how to be a wife to a broken man, and vice versa. Because there are areas in me that need to be fixed. I don't want to say that to condemn him. I'm saying I'm broken in areas as well. But God could have given me strategy. When you are faithful to God and allow Him to direct your path, He'll give you wisdom on how to navigate situations. Because I, I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for what was ahead of me. But God is still faithful and just that He'll carry you through in a season and through a storm. And He did just that for me.
And I want people to really hear what she said. She's not negating from the fact that that was her husband, but she had to, because she wasn't willing to endure the process, she got more hell than what she felt that she should have deserved. And so I definitely want people to hear that. So we have Sherelle Alexander saying, speaks this, I can definitely relate. And then Courtney said, look at God. And so now looking back in hindsight, we had that question. Now, what would you tell the women who will never, like I said, never share a post, never comment, or never even mention that they are live? What would you tell them if they are currently in or if they have just come out of a situation like yours?
Whew, like mine.
Yeah, because
Um,
it gets worse. I mean, because I know when I started Confession of a Lady in 2015, I thought my story was the worst. And then God allowed for me to meet other women in other statutes of life. And I'm like, my story hitting on none of y'all. So there is somebody out there whose story may be similar to yours, even a little bit worse, or maybe nowhere near what you've gone through. So what would you tell someone who is currently in and or coming out of a domestic violence situation? Maybe we should put it that way.
so what I would tell them is to seek ye first the kingdom of God, and make sure that you surround yourself with people who are strong enough to handle your testimony. Yeah, let's start there. People that are strong enough to handle your testimony. Because sometimes you'll share your story with people who are not capable to travail on your behalf. There's a certain kind of anointing that comes with breaking through the burdens of, going through domestic violence. You have to have some non-judgmental people that hear from God clearly, people that are not after your story to share with other people, but people who are there for your healing process. And God will line those people up, but you have to ask them. So I would say start with, God, I'm broken. God, I need you. And God, I need you to send the right people in this season that's going to help put the pieces back together and show me why you allowed me to not only go through this, but to survive it. Because the Bible says that all things work together for the good of those that love the Lord and are called according to His purpose. So think it not strange that God will allow a season of havoc in order to refine the diamond that you are, so that you can sort of catapult you into ministry. So one, I would say get around godly counsel, people that can restore you and speak life into you. And when you develop that, then things will just line up. And the closer that you get to God, the more you'll understand that the sufferings of our present time isn't to be compared to the glory that He has in line for you. I believe that God allowed this season for me to be who I am. So don't be the victim. You've already won. If you're on this live, or if you will hear this live, God allowed you to survive it. And the things that you went through are going to be the things that are going to fuel you into purpose. So that when you begin to share your testimony, it's not from a vain place or a non-experienced place, but you'll be able to speak to the heart of those that you can save from going through the things that you have been through. It's for His glory. You know what I mean? So I would say that.
I personally believe. I personally believe, and I do understand exactly what you're saying, and I do. I love for people like you and other guests in the confessional room who can come in and share their story raw and authentic, and just being totally transparent. And I mean, there are some things that you said that really stuck out to me that I can really think back and I can relate on in my situations, where sometimes we as women I don't think that we even realize it until it's too late, where we just want something so bad. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a man. It may be, moving forward in our career, moving forward in our business, whatever the case may be. We want that thing right now. We feel, okay, so God, I did my part. So when a glimpse of it comes along, we're like, okay, so that's it. So this is it. Let me go ahead and put my all into it. And sometimes we don't step back and pray. We don't step back and pray and wait for God to truly answer and give us that clear, concise understanding of, okay, so what is it to do? I tell people all the time, I pray about everybody who I let close to me, because I need to know. I know if I let you in, you're going to have all of me. And I need to know if I can trust you with my heart, because one thing I know, if I don't know nothing else, I can't get the time back. Now, he'll heal my broken heart, but I can get back the time that I wasted. And sometimes that is one of the biggest obstacles, in my opinion, that we go through as women, because we can't get it back if we try. We can't turn back the hands of time. And so I really understand and respect for you when you say to trust the process. We have to. We can't allow for ourselves to get caught up in the potential. Like you said that earlier, we love us a good potential. We love, okay, so he's doing XYZ. He said he gonna do this, or they said they're gonna do that, but their actions never line up. I posted a couple of days, is love an action? Is love a word of action, or is it both? And many people say that it's both. A person can't speak and say something, they have to actually show it. But how many of us are actually holding other people accountable for the love in which they share or that they say they have for us? So oftentimes, I'm just not
Yeah.
talking about with a man, or I'm talking about any person who we consider our friends, family, by blood or by nature, whatever the case. When they say they love us, is it coming from a raw and authentic place, or it's something that we are just saying to pass time?
That's right. That's right. The thing that I would say, as I'm ending this trial and stepping into a new season, is that forgiveness is important. God has been showing me, woo, and you don't know what kind of fleshly world you in until God calls you to forgiveness. And in this season that God has been calling me to forgiveness concerning the situation, He has been very strategic, and like the Holy Spirit will just drop on me. Remember how hard He worked to get Christian here. Remember, His intent. Remember all that potential that you fell in love with. Thank God for the potential that He had. He's beginning to show me not the devil that was working inside of him, but who his intentions were to be, what I did see in him. And those very thoughts that I had about him in the beginning are the things that I'm using to exude forgiveness. And I ask God to not just let me forgive him, but I'm saying forgive him in a way that I remember his sin no more. That when I see him, all things are made new, because God does that for us. James, the book of James, talks about the level of mercy that you show towards others will be the level of mercy in which he'll use towards you. And when God resonated that in my heart, I began to think about the amount of mercy that I'm going to need from my son when he goes the wrong way. So if I can begin to, just like I have a savings account created for his future, his college, I've got a store of mercy for him for when I need to cry out to God to save him. You understand what I'm saying? And God is so much more important to me. My son is so much more important to me. My healing is so much more important to me than holding on to a mistake that somebody made. I said all that to say that I thank God that I'm faithful to him enough to know when forgiveness is necessary, because when God has called you to be a leader in ministry, the way he determines your elevation is by your obedience. And God will let you go through a thing. He'll let you pout and feel some kind of way, but he'll remind you, I kept you. I promise you that trials and tribulations would come, but no weapon formed against you will prosper. And now that I've kept you, it's your responsibility to keep my word. And he called me to forgiveness. So I said all that to say that I forgive him. I love him with the love of God. I told God that I would never speak ill of him again, that I would only speak life, because now I'm believing for him to be an amazing father to my son. And I cannot allow what happened in the past to affect the generational curse that I need to happen with my son and his father. I need for God to move in my son's life in a way that he hadn't before me. And it's going to cause for me to be responsible to forgive, to allow that door to open for my son, and that's important. And so I bless God that I'm in a season where he is maturing me to be able to, one, speak about what I went through, have integrity while doing it, and love that man enough to forgive him. And if I saw him tomorrow, everything would be made new, because God has been so faithful to me that the devil in hell couldn't come against what God has created in me. Yeah.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. That's good. And I tell people on this live all the time that forgiveness is not about the other person. It's truly about you and your healing and what you want somebody to extend that same forgiveness from you. We all make mistakes and we all fall short of God's glory, but we have to forgive other people because at some point we're going to need that same forgiveness extended to us. And it's hard. It's one of the hardest parts, I believe, of the healing process is to forgive and accept the things that other people have done to you, especially when you know that your intentions and your heart was in the right place. That's to me when it's like, God, you want me to forgive them? And do you know what they did to me? Like, were you there? And he has to remind you, yes, I was there, but I allowed for you to come out. I was there when it happened. I am here now that it's over, and I will be there in the future. But you got to be in a place mentally and spiritually where you forgive that other person, because holding that unforgiveness will warrant you to have hatred, and it'll diminish you as a person overall because you're holding on to that. And so I think that forgiveness, whew, you have to be very mature to get to that place.
Let me tell you what got me to the place is purpose. Once you learn that you are living to save the lives of those that are lost, then you accept the cross that bears with doing that. And just like myself, I'm going to fail. I'm going to disappoint people. I'm sure I have backstabbed people in the past, not even intentionally. But if you are listening to the devil and you let him infiltrate your thoughts, he'll make your wrong seem right.
Oh, come on
A
now.
lot of people think somebody's doing something wrong that they feel they're doing something wrong to you. No, the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy, and it first starts with a thought. So if the enemy can convince them that they're making the right decision in anger to come against you because whatever he made them feel like you did wrong to them, they're going to exude it if they don't have the word of God in them to combat it. The Bible says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities in high places. So until you get into the knowledge of Christ and understand that you're not wrestling with your homegirl, you're not wrestling with your husband, you are wrestling with the enemy. And when you understand that purpose comes with sacrifice, even on the cross, Jesus said, God, forgive them for they know not what they do. And I believe that when you come into the knowledge of Christ and understand that your purpose, you're going to expect the enemy to come against you via people. And that's why he admonishes you to guard your heart and always have the full armor of God on. So the next situation I encounter, it won't be so personal when somebody backstabs me because I'll expect it. God knew that one of his disciples was going to betray him. That never stopped him from loving him, but it did allow him to guard his heart because he knew he would do it. I think what we do as human beings is we have such high expectations out of other human beings that are equally flawed. And that expectation that we have in humans sometimes surpass God because it's the people that we see. So when we see clearly that God is sending us on assignment to go to the broken and heal them, when the broken try to come against us, you're going to say, God, forgive them for they know not what they do. God, I come to you on their behalf. God, I ask that you heal them. And I know that the enemy is trying to break me from my assignment, but I'm going to love the hell out of them. And come hell or high water, nothing will stop me from the assignment that God has called me to do, not even them themselves, because they know not what they do. Now, when you get there, honey, and that comes through crushing, that comes through losing your self-identity, that comes from denying your flesh and fasting and getting on the floor before God because you need him for every breath that you breathe. When you get to purpose, you'll begin to smile at your adversary because God has already won. We just got to walk it out. Yeah.
Well, the people of the confessional room,
Yeah.
here's now the offering plate.
Oh, God is good.
Here is now the offering plate. We accept every form of I'm joking. Let me stop playing. But no, you're so right. You were so right. And there's not much more that I need to say. She has said it all. And you guys are on here. I'm still working through that part. Um, so if you have any questions, I will. Her Instagram is tagged here. She's a like I said, my life. Never have. But I did know that she and I shared similar stories, and um it was needed for her to come into the room. Again, I'm not sure if maybe it's not you, that you're not going through anything. Maybe you're that lucky few. And I like to have the statistics, share the statistics in the state of Alabama, that every hour on the hour there is a child who will be um neglected or abuse and allegation. Let me say that, allegation of child abuse and neglect. Child abuse and neglect is the number 12 health concern in the state of Alabama. Every 9 seconds, there is a woman who is being a product of domestic violence, and 1 in 3 women before the age of 18 will be sexually assaulted. So I like to give the statistics because, yeah, maybe you are that few who will never encounter any type of abuse, but unfortunately, there is somebody in your circle closer to you than you may ever know. Because just like Ruby said, she didn't want to tell anybody. We get in denial. We are in denial. I'm gonna call a spade a spade. We get in denial when we fall in love. We sometimes let down our guards with people who we shouldn't trust, because one, we never took the time to seek God and pray about what is their purpose in my life. Why are we being connected? Yes, sure enough, God, you do nothing on everything is done intentional. But what is their purpose? We're not always meant to fall in love with the people who we think we should fall in love with. Maybe we're supposed to just love them, and maybe he's trying to get something to us through them. But we really have to get to a place where we truly pray and seek God into what are people's purpose in our lives. And so from that, I want to thank you, Miss Ward, for joining us tonight in the confessional room. I want to thank you for bringing us a great word on tonight. I want to thank you for walking in your purpose and inspiring other women to do the same thing. I want to thank you for sharing your testimony with people, because we overcome by our testimonies. And it's our duty as survivors to reach back and to help someone else to come up. I truly believe that. I told God a long time ago, I gotta watch my mouth. When I was laying in that room in the dark after having my daughter, if you bring me out of this, I promise I will help as many women possible who's willing to hear, to come out of that state of depression, suicide, promiscuity, from being almost raped to a domestic violence situation, many of them emotional, physical, sexual. I would do that work, and it is not an easy walk, because the assignment in which I know that I have, it's a taboo. Nobody wants to talk about being molested. Nobody wants to talk about how they lost themselves being in a relationship with someone who they thought that they should love, but they went upside their head. Nobody wants to talk about that. So I want to thank you for entrusting me enough, and I know that you sought God before you said your yes, and for him to confirm with you that this here was a safe place and that someone needed to hear your story. So again, I want to thank you for being obedient and coming into the room and sharing with these women. Again, there are many women who will never say anything in these lives because they're afraid, and the devil makes them believe that they're the only one that'll never be able to come out. But we as survivors, we know that that is just a trick of the enemy, and that we do have purpose on the other side of our drama. So again, I want to thank you from the sincere bottom of my heart, and I pray many blessings upon you in your business. And your little
Thank
cute
you,
little
love.
baby,
Thank
one day
you
I'm
for
going to take him and I'm going to squeeze him really, really tight.
having me.
So, do
He's
you have
amazing.
any last words for the people? Any last words?
I thank you for having me. This is an amazing platform to be able to free women, and I'm all about it. I was a little nervous coming on because I was like, God, I don't want to, antagonize anything, and I've just been, sifting through, God, how do I share my testimony so that it's effective and not messy. Effective and not messy. And God said, just share your truth, and He'll begin to move through that. So I pray that something that I said tonight bless you. Don't feel sorry for me. This is a victorious situation. God got all the glory. It's the reason why I'm on fire for Him now. And I love you guys. And if we can, be of any service to you, Ruby Woo House of Fashion, we're available for battered women and children. And don't forget, forgive.
The
You
word
gotta
of
forgive.
tomorrow, we'll start it tonight, but the word of tomorrow is forgiveness. And I truly want to hear, for everybody who's watching this, please drop a comment. I wanna know, what does forgiveness look like and what does it mean to you? And do you extend forgiveness the same way in which you want other people to forgive you, because that's the tricky part. We all want forgiveness, but do you really extend it the way that you want to receive it back?
Yeah. You got to do it because, see, forgiveness will turn your heart cold. Unforgiveness will turn your heart cold, and you'll be a dead man walking. For months, I replayed and played over. I told as many people as I could the pain that I was enduring. Everybody who would listen, I would say, "Do you remember? I can't believe he did this to me." And I just started dying. The more I heard myself and repeated the situation that I encountered over and over again, instead of speaking life, I spoke death. And God calls us to speak life over our situation, even when it looks horrible. So if I could advise about forgiveness, anytime that somebody has hurt you, begin to pray for them instead of allowing that thought to manifest into hate. Begin to, God, I come before you now asking that you heal them so that they won't break another person. And in the area that I messed up, God, have them forgive me. And the more you begin to pray for the person that came against you, the God will unharden your heart, and you'll be able to forgive. It's so important. You got to do it, because you're gonna die if you don't. You got to do
And it won't be easy in the beginning. And God
it.
knows
No, it won't.
it won't be easy, because you're gonna try to sit there and barter like, I just want to forgive him a little bit, just do this. But you gotta understand that you gotta get through that rough patch, because I promise you, I promise you, I promise you that the prayer will get easier, and you will feel as if there has been a ton of bricks lifted off your shoulder when you truly begin to forgive the other person. Now you don't have to forget, but you do have to forgive them and move on, because one of my favorite quotes is, that who angers you has control over you. And even though you moved on for that situation, that person's still holding control over you, because you won't let it go. And it's hard, but you can and you will
Won't you?
do it.
Yeah, you can and you will. And when it's over with, you so free from it. You so free from it. Yeah, it's gonna be great. So if you need help with that forgiveness, with walking through that process, I'll be more than happy to help you with it. It was a journey, but the Bible says the race is not given to the swift, but to the one that endures. And the goal is to be more like God, and He forgives by the second.
So, you guys, this is the end of the confessional room. Again, I want to thank you all for joining us. Please be sure to share this out to anyone. Again, it may not be for you, but someone on your timeline, or in your in your secret groups, or whatever you may have. And again, if you would like to be a guest in the confessional room, just make sure that you inbox us. We'd be more than happy to have you here. We have openings for the month of October, November, December, and then we're going to close out the year. Again, you guys, I thank you so much for joining us in here tonight. And as always, please remember that your imperfections make you perfect, and you are imperfectly perfect. Good night.